Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to A Mother's Heart. I'm Tracey Swainson, and I have my beautiful guest today, Fiona Pendergast.
Yes.
And I'm so excited to share her story. She's such a joy. And she's a woman who has really done the healing work for herself. And she has connected with her spirit baby. And I'm just going to let you take over, Fiona, and see where the story wants to go.
Absolutely. And feel free, Tracey, to step in and ask me questions.
I will.
I'm a talker. Yeah. So where to start? So in Elizabeth was stillborn on the 28th of November 2019. Oh my God, I'm like, where are we now? We're 2021. Yes. So throughout my pregnancy, it was a very tough pregnancy. I had terrible morning sickness, and I have another daughter, and she's 9, and my pregnancy just didn't feel the same. I'm not saying I had premonitions that I was going to lose her. I just didn't feel like the same, and different things throughout like the pregnancy. I was like, oh, that's just feels a little bit off. And then obviously got the news and stuff that sorry, my other daughter interfering, interrupting. Got the news, the devastating news that there was no heartbeat. And in the few days leading up to that, it was like my soul totally knew. I even actually felt like the moment her energy, I know, like left my body. I had this like weird kind of experience, or kind of a cool experience looking back at it. I just kind of like time stopped still. And but it took my mind like a long time to catch up, like I'm actually very intuitive. So I was really shocked by this. And I've since learned that my part perfectly, because Elizabeth was like, no, this was the way it was supposed to be, and you were blocked, because it was very, very strange for me to be so intuitive and then for to not to know. So anyway, we when I gave birth to Elizabeth, it actually was a really amazing experience. It was like we were in the presence of angels. I was expecting it to be really, really like awful, horrendous moment, but the energy just shifted in the room for around 30 minutes. And it wasn't me on the gas and air, it was like the midwife was saying it, like my partner was saying it, and my sisters were there. And this was life-changing for them. I already had a strong connection through my grandmother with spirit. So I knew that spirit existed. So it was mind like life-changing for them. But for me, I was kind of expecting it. And at the time, I was like very devastated, obviously, but I was very angry at Elizabeth. So it's like this beautiful, like absolutely gorgeous baby girl. And there was a big part of me that was like really, really angry at her, not angry at myself or anyone else, kind of like saying, oh, you were supposed to come. And I'm like, how dare you leave me and stuff. And it was actually that anger and the experience of birthing her that made me realize, oh, wait a minute, you're no fool. You're actually really angry with her. You must really know her to be this angry, and you must know that she exists. And like it was like, oh, well, if she exists, then you've got to find her, And that, like, I was like, so honestly, from like the second day after she passed, and I got to spend 5 days with her in the hospital. We had a cuddle cot, so that was amazing, and make loads of memories with her physically. But even as the days went on, I was like going, I realized that I was interacting, the physical was less, I was interacting more with the spiritual than the physical. And it was really profound for me. And I was like, oh my God, something's happening here, I mean, this isn't just a physical baby. This is actually so much bigger, because I feel her presence like hugely, and I feel her comforting me. And I was getting less angry. I was like going, there's something to this, you know? So I like started looking it up, and I was like read stuff about spirit babies. And then I started looking, but thinking back to my pregnancy, and realized that she had been communicating with me because I was getting kind of signs already, you know? And I thought it was my guardian angel, to be honest with you. And I thought I was just like my guardian angel, but now I realize that actually Elizabeth. And I was quite excited about this because I didn't want what I was experiencing to be meaningless. I didn't want to have had gone through a really tough pregnancy and gone through IVF. Elizabeth was an IVF baby, and for it to not have meaning or purpose in my life, because I'm very much that everything happens for a reason and I have to find the reason. So as soon as I realized, and very quickly realized, oh, like she can still be in my life in spirit,
Yes.
I was like okay, I've got to open up. And I started meditating, and I started to get incredible signs. I mean, she was on fire, you know, she knew, and it was all obviously part of the plan, but she knew that I could feel her and I could communicate, and she telepaths into my head at times as well. And
Yes.
like stuff was just happening, and even like it was so profound that like even my parents, my brother, who wouldn't have even believed in anything, was like, okay, well, there's something to this. And signs started to happen. Like she'd be putting E's, and E is my Elizabeth, E for Elizabeth. There'd like suddenly there'd be a shadow of an E on the wall. There was like were E clouds. And I mean, not just like a cloud that like is looks like an E, it actually would be there. I was finding heart-shaped objects. There was just so many things. I literally was like, it was like I was living in two worlds. It was like living in the physical world and living in the spiritual world. And then I could feel her presence, and I get tingles all over my body. And then, you know, it got to the point where I could nearly communicate by, you know, if this is something that I should do or should not do, give me the tingles. If it's not, and like she'd respond. So she, like, there's so many signs, and I've posted on like some of the Facebook pages, the Afterlife of Spirit Baby, you know, some of the signs, but they really were mind blowing. And it got to the point that the signs became less important. It was the fact that I could feel her, and I knew she was working like with me. And the comfort that it brought me, you know, I just felt so grateful and blessed that I feel like, though of course I had physical grief and like I had to work through that, um, I worked through it quite quickly. And it's an ongoing process, you know, you can still get waves of grief, you know, and that's absolutely fine. We're having a physical experience here. We're human. I'm very human, but it's got to the point now where I'm so used to having her like with me in spirit that I couldn't, if you actually gave me a choice of having her back physically or a thing, I genuinely, and this will shock people, I'm like going, no, you stay where you are. I know I'll be with you. I know I'll be with you like eternally. But you were
Yes.
such a great influence and force in my life. We really
Yeah.
have a great relationship. And my life is extremely busy. She told me very clearly that I would be having another child, that she had a brother coming. And I was like, okay, well, this is almost impossible because we were dealing with some very severe infertility things. But of course, she's always right. And I'm pregnant, I'm 31 weeks pregnant with her brother, you know, and that,
Congratulations.
like, and I was quite vocal to people where Elizabeth saying that she has a brother and she's really excited about him coming, and he's coming, and people were like, oh, okay, you know. And then I did get pregnant, and then it is a boy, and people are like, okay, yeah. So now my whole family are open. I mean, we call on her for everything.
That's awesome. I'm
they,
so excited to
it's
hear
like,
that.
and she loves the connection. She loves being involved. my daughter who's 9, I was very open with her as well. She has connection with her too, and she's just so present in our lives. And I think it's all down to like being open to it and asking for it. I think you have to really
asking for it is
ask for it and invite it in.
Yeah.
And then you have to get over the kind of the doubts, kind of, like some spirit will come on really strong. Like she's probably like me. I always say, well, she's like me. She didn't lick it off the ground. She likes to make herself known. She's not afraid of attention, and she, and I would be very similar, and I might get a kick out of that. Although we do have differences. She's got a softer side than I would, and people say, well, how do you know if it's you or your thoughts or her thoughts? And like she would definitely, because she's in spirit, have a kinder, more angelic response than I. Like I'm a strong person, and I'm a lovely person, but I'm strong too. I'm feisty. I work in financial world. I'm a director. I'm not a pussy. And she, if I ever get worked up, she'll try and like bring me down straight away. And it's amazing. It's so comforting, it really is.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I was so excited when we spoke last week and you shared about how when you gave birth to her, there was that moment, like 30 minutes, where it just felt like angels were in the room, because that was my experience with my last pregnancy loss. I had multiple miscarriages, and each one of them were, for me, absolutely devastating. And I went into a deep, dark depression with each one. It grew because I didn't have any experiences I didn't have anyone to share with. But with my last one, I was in New Zealand and my husband's home. We had gone home to visit, and we had just spent the previous day hiking a mountain. It's a very sacred mountain in New Zealand, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful space. And then the very next day, I had a miscarriage, and but for the first time ever in my life, I went through the miscarriage. And it was like angels in the room. It was the most incredible experience that I've ever had. So when you shared that with me, I was like, oh my God, I have that too.
I know. And it's so profound when you have something like that. It's like there's no rational explanation for it. It's like, it's such it is, and Elizabeth always says to me, that, oh, Fiona, you're very privileged to have this connection and this relationship and to have this knowing, because I don't say that it's my beliefs. It's actually, I know, and it's like, there is nothing that would discredit me. It's not faith. It's not beliefs.
That's right.
It's actually, it's knowing. Yes. And when you have something, a physical experience of spirit, such as the energy shift, the beauty, the overwhelming love, and wow, it's just like you can't deny that, because they've somehow managed to breach the physical boundaries.
Isn't that incredible when that experience
it is. It's incredible. It's a huge gift. Yeah,
it really, really is. And I just love that story and how you've had those experiences, because we both said that we've had very similar experiences. And I would love for you to share the different signs that you've been given as far as seeing the eaves and the clouds and those different things. And that, I think Absolutely. That would be encouraging for some.
Yeah. So one day we were going into the park, myself and my partner John, Elizabeth's dad, and Elizabeth telepathed into my head. She was like going, by the time you leave the park, I'm going to send you a big heart. And she was like, tell dad. And so I said, this is a bit random, but I was like, Elizabeth has just told me that she's going to send a big heart by the time we leave the park. So I was like, okay, I'm just telling you, he was like, okay, yeah, you're crazy. And so we walked around the park, and like many leaves look like hearts. And I do think like spirit draws your consciousness to these things.
Yes.
People might say, how is that a sign? And I say, well, the sign is that your consciousness is raised to draw to to, but that happens all the time. And I was like, no, she couldn't have meant, she's talking about something big. So I was just about to leave the park, and I stepped on something, and it was a big cardboard cutout of a heart on the ground. It was like incredible. And the brilliant thing about it is, because I didn't doubt, I knew that if she said it,
Yes.
it was going to happen. And but John was like, oh my God, you couldn't, it was just so random that you just couldn't make it up. Another thing that happened, and I mean, I have a bookload of these, I'm in groups, and sometimes we do sign of the week. And the sign of the week on this occasion was a stingray. And I said to Elizabeth, because I always, if we do sign of the week, you can guarantee that I'll have at least 3 or 4 stingrays, in some way, shape, or other. But I said to her, I was like, now I'm going to challenge you this week. I was like, I want something big. And I said, and I told John again, and I think she likes if I like when I involve him. He's a total believer now, but I think she does come up with the goods to impress Daddy. I said, oh, my sign of the week is a stingray, and and so I got a few different stingrays, and I was like, no, that's like not good enough. I want something very impressive. And me and John were sitting down to watch television, and John randomly changed the channel. I was kind of falling half asleep anyway, which I often do, but he randomly changed the channel. He doesn't even know why he changed the channel. And there was a nature program on, and I aroused from my sleep, and the narrator started talking about how loving and protective the stingray parents were, and a stingray comes along this river in the Amazon or something like that. And me and John are just kind of like going, but it was the words that was like surrounding it, and the fact that I was half falling asleep, and that he was like going, I have no idea why I randomly changed the channel, So, he knew that, like, he was like, she made me change the channel. And it was like a beautiful message. It was both the stingray and the words surrounding it. So that was gorgeous.
Yes.
On her anniversary, all my family got together, and we were letting off lanterns. Mm-hmm. And we let them off at the time of her birth. And literally, as we let the last one off at the exact time of her birth, the clouds started forming, and a big capital E formed right in front of our eyes. So it was my whole family there, and literally, and we have it all on camera. Like, we have it all. It was incredible. Yeah, she's a show off, and she's a party girl.
She is.
Yeah, she really is. But for my family, that was incredible for them. And my group, we had 10 different groups of friends that did the exact same thing all over Ireland, because it was organized because it was COVID and we weren't allowed to be together, but my family did break the rules to come and spend it with me. And in every single video, there's an orb. All the videos are taken at the exact same time. There's the exact same orb flying around in every single, that's 10 videos, 10 different places. And that was like incredible for my friends. And when the video started to come through, it was like, we all could see, I was like, oh my God, can you see this? Can you see? And it was incredible. So she really, I love that one, because I always say to my family, Elizabeth isn't just with me, she's with everyone. Because that's hard for people to get their heads around, that, well, how can she be in so many different places? But they're not obviously limited by distance or time, So I love that. I could go on.
Yes. That is incredible. She is a gorgeous being. That is just amazing, those stories. That's just wow.
Yeah, she's
Wow.
got great
And
energy.
I love that
Yeah,
she's
she's got
bringing,
what? Yeah.
yeah, I love that she's bringing that connection through to her dad too, so that he can
Yes,
feel that as well. It's so important.
totally.
And I
Oh, I
know,
have
like
another
with my
funny.
situation. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, right. No,
Share.
this is a funny one. We were never really seriously getting a dog, and then Elizabeth, I was speaking to someone who's a medium intuitive, and she said, oh, by the way, why is Elizabeth saying she's saying something about a black dog? And I was like, oh, I want to get pregnant. I don't want a dog. But then somehow, and this is like a few months later after that message, and I had to go back and check, did she say black dog? Because Elizabeth was adamant that we were getting like a dog. And then it just all happened very naturally. This dog was up, and I was like, oh, will we just do it? And then I was like, oh, come on, we'll just do it. We'll get a dog. And Molly is a black dog, but it's the cutest thing because Molly and her dad, and Elizabeth was John's first child and only child. My daughter's from a previous relationship.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Molly and like the John are just like, they're the best buds. I mean, they are just, and I was like, why is she sending me a dog? And I got pregnant a couple of months later. I was like going, because I would never have had a toddler dog and a newborn baby.
Yes,
But I
that's
just,
a lot.
yeah, a lot. But now I'm like going, oh my God, she sent the dog for John. It's the cutest thing. It's adorable. And they're like two peas in a pod. It's gorgeous.
That's
Yeah.
so
It's like,
wonderful. That's such good things. And she knows your hearts. She knows your hearts and what you need, right?
yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yes. Well, it's such fun stories, and this is what I'm wanting people to have, that understanding that we both had these experiences, and many women around the world have had these experiences with their spirit babies. And that you can have that too. It's being open to that. And for me, that was the final piece. I mean, still there's times that I grieve. I had a big cry out last week myself. All these years later, I thought I had gone through everything, and I had a big cry, but it was a very healing thing that I needed. But
let me tell you something, Tracey. My grandmother lost her first baby, and I say lost, and I really don't mean lost, because I know exactly where all our spirit babies are. They're not lost at all. But her first child, Mary, died when she was 3 days old, and on my grandmother's deathbed, I said to her, oh, Gran, we were very close, and I said, are you scared? And she was like, I'm so excited to see Mary. And this was like long before I was even dating men and stuff, but it stayed with me, and and it's such a lovely thing. Yeah. So you never,
cool.
Yeah, but we have it, and this is the thing that's important for people to know. And I'm sure some people look at me and my experience with Elizabeth and think, oh, I wish I had that. And it's not even, you can have this at any time. Spirit is always with you. I actually had an early pregnancy loss, and he came in with Elizabeth. Actually, Elizabeth was adamant, that he would come in, and no one even, I'd say around 3 people knew, I was very young, that I was even pregnant. So when he came in, and he came in loud and strong, and he was like, oh, I've been looking after you for 20 years. And like, Elizabeth's like, no, this guy is your Prince Charming. He's been looking after you for a long time. And like, that's like incredible, because I didn't obviously have as big a connection with him as I do with Elizabeth. And he's like, that's absolutely fine. He was like going, I'm still watching over you and stuff. And that's the important thing to note, that even if you can't feel them, doesn't mean that they're not there and not like walking through life with you, which is a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
And you'll just get a big surprise when you cross over.
Yeah.
And you know, you
Yeah.
get to meet them. Of course, we already, I fully believe, know them extremely, extremely well.
Of course we do. We do.
Yeah.
I believe that as well. And oh, just one sec. I mean, you had mentioned how previously in our conversation that how you were more open to spirit coming through because you'd had that connection with your grandmother. And that was my experience. When I was 8, my grandfather passed, and I barely knew him in the physical world. I'd met him a few times, but I didn't really have a relationship with him. But he came through to me after he passed over, and we created the most amazing bond together. And I could
That's
talk to
amazing.
him like I'm talking to you, and it was like his presence was like right here with me all through my childhood, my teens, 20s, 30s, 40s. I mean, he was there the entire time, and he opened up that pathway for me.
Oh yes.
And it's such a blessing, and you've had
Yeah.
that experience
Yeah.
too.
That I'm telling you, the only reason I am as open as I was is because my grandmother came to me. And let me tell you, she came to me in spirit. She didn't come to me as a silhouette of her. She came to
Yes,
me as a
yes.
bright light. And it was like, I always say it was like a waterfall, but it just flew down. It didn't. It was just like, and I literally got the fright of my life. It was the most beautiful, peaceful thing that I'd ever experienced, actually, even more profound than in the delivery room. And I was like, Gran. I was like going, and I knew that it was her. I knew that it was her straight away. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I can't believe it. There's something else. I was like going, I knew it. And I was like, you're going to have to give me more. I can see you. And then she came over and like blew my hair back, and the energy picked up my boot. This is all true story that I told like family mostly about. And then 2 hours later, because I was like mind blown. I said in my head, I said, if that was you, to give me one last thing, Gran. And literally the boot that I had put, that she had put in the air, that I put outside the door because I was so freaked out, just appeared in the exact same moment. I literally had the thought and it just appeared by my side. And I said, I fully believe now, Gran, but never do that again, because I'm going to have to sleep with the light on for like 3 months. And I did. And Elizabeth makes fun of me because I don't like physically seeing stuff. I can see energy and stuff. And Elizabeth goes, don't worry, I'm not going to appear. And because though some people like that, I actually don't. My spirit, I like feeling things and telepathy and knowing and stuff. But the actual seeing thing freaks me out for some reason. It makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't make any sense. But it's just, I prefer the feeling and the knowing and stuff like but my gran then confirmed that 3 years after that incident, I was having my tarot cards read, just for fun with girls, and the reader said, oh, your grandmother's here. She wants to apologize for completely freaking you out that time in the kitchen, but she was like going, she wanted you to know, she had an important message for you to know that spirit existed. And that was 5 years before Elizabeth passed. So my gran, because she had lost a child as well, was very determined that on my path that I would know straight away that Elizabeth still existed. And I thank her for that every day. And she lets Elizabeth be more in the forefront now, but I call on my gran still a lot, too. But Elizabeth, I can feel like very close by me, but we have loads of spirit by us. I can actually tune into to be honest with you, it's a friend of mine, it's her birthday today. She's 12 years or 20 years past, and I can tune into her spirit. I can tune into any spirit now. They're always there. All you have to do is think about them and you literally tune in. It's like, it's incredible.
It is.
It's incredible.
It is. Yeah, I love that we have those similarities and we have that understanding. And yes, for me, my grandfather, both my grandfather and Bodhi have come to me in my dreams. So that's how I get their physical sense, but it is their energy field. I can feel, there's a feeling that I get when I know my grandfather is here. There's a feeling that I get when Bodhi is here. And yes, we speak telepathically, of course, and have that communication in that way. But it's through the dreams that I get the exact visual of what they're trying to portray to me, which is just incredible. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I wanted people to know, and just to really understand that there's so much more that when we, I wish there was another word for when we lose our babies, because we're not truly losing them. It may feel that way in the grief process, but once we go through that healing journey, there's just so much more to life and spirit. And we are souls here having a human experience, and we are so connected to what's in the other realms. And we just have to be open and ask for it. And that was, like I told you, that was the final key for me, was connecting with Bodhi and having that connection with him. And it took me years and years and years to go through my grief process without anyone to support me. But it's a big journey. But that final key, having Bodhi come through, and for you, Elizabeth, it changes things. It changes it, knowing that you can have a conversation at any moment of the day, or you can just say, I'm thinking of you, and give me a sign, or whatever you might want to do.
Impress me. It softens the journey. I mean, Elizabeth is quite vocal about this. She's like, this is a tough journey. She was like going, it's meant to be. We don't choose difficult paths unless we're going to make some monumental growth from it.
Yes.
And everyone's gonna, like, my journey happens to be a spiritual awakening, and that's my journey. I know someone else's journey could be something completely different, same loss, but a different journey. Different experience. It's never, it's never going to be completely easy, because it's not supposed to be. If we were on an easier path, we wouldn't have lost children. That's like the long and short of it, and we can't shy away from that. And even the most gifted spiritual people, if you look at their lives, and they will be quite honest, they don't have easy paths, because a soul wouldn't come down here for an easy path. The easy side is, the other side, I'm afraid.
That's exactly right. And it's so true. And that's something that I often say, is that Bodhi was the vessel for my awakening, my healing journey, and my awakening. He absolutely was. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today if it were not for Bodhi and for those experiences. It was a horrible experience that I went through, as we all do. We rose our head, we lifted our hand and said, yes, we're going to commit to this experience, and come through and learn what we're meant to learn, and remember what we're meant to remember. And our spirit babies are there to guide us along the way. So.
And there are times where I say to Elizabeth, I mean, this is nuts that any of us would choose this. Surely there's another way to learn these things. But if I'm being brutally honest, the amount that I've actually grown, and I hate to come across all kind of like lightness and fluff on this, because believe you me, I haven't had a simple, easy life by anyone's stretch. But I've just become just such a elevated soul compared to where I started off, that I just really do feel that there is so much purpose and so much meaning in it, that I'm grateful for that growth. At times I get pissed off, and and I'm very demanding, by the way, of Elizabeth in spirit. My mom is like, oh my God, don't be asking Elizabeth for that. And I'm like going, listen, Mom, Elizabeth is in paradise. She can help me out on these things. And when I say she helps me out in the most incredible of ways, even now. So I've kind of moved on a little bit from the signs, and I know that she's there now. There's but now I actually look for practical advice, and the way she's helped me, navigate like house sales and house purchases and like even FX trade the other day. I'm telling you, it's like even in my job, like if there's something and she brings to my attention, like watch this, I'll like she really does help me to the point that but we have a deal because I was like, I don't want to cheat. I know I'm down here for a long, intense journey. I do want your comfort and I do want your help, but I don't want to kind of look back and say, oh, like you let me win, or
yes,
you helped me
exactly.
too much. I want to do the growth that I came down here for, and I do as well,
Yeah,
but
that's exactly right. We want to experience the fullness of what we came here to experience, the good, bad, and everything in between. But we get to do that with our spirit babies on the other side, guiding us and supporting us and giving those little encouraging signs along the way. And there are times that a sign is really encouraging and we really need it. And then other times, like Bodhi is he's my wisdom keeper. And just like you said, she supports you in making these decisions and allowing things to unfold or bringing your attention to something. And it's very, very similar. So what a joy, Fiona, what a joy to speak with you. And, I'm really grateful that this was a lighter conversation, because with women who are going through the grief healing process of pregnancy and baby loss, there's too much grief, there's too much heaviness, and we need to go through that. That needs to be an experience that we go through, but there is joy on the other side of that. And it's being able to balance the grief and the joy and find the fullness of that.
And there's just so much love, and it all comes down to love at the end of the day. Love is the biggest connector,
Oh, it so is.
I think if one knew how loved they were by spirit babies, they literally would be like fall down and because it really is, it really is. Oh.
So thank you so much for connecting with me and sharing
Tracey.
your story. And it's such a joy to have you. And I really hope that this conversation meets the women and the men, whoever might be listening to these stories that need support, to know that there's so much more.
So much more.
Just losing your baby. And I don't want to say just lightly, but just that was a place that I was in for the longest time. And that's all I could see was that I had lost my babies. I had had these miscarriages and I didn't see anything more than that. And it took my final miscarriage to see the angels come through and have that connection. And that shifted things. My healing process happened.
When you do have that, then you really realize, oh, I've actually gained something here, it's like you may not have a baby in your arms or back chatting. Let's be honest, they're only in her arms for a small number of years. but you have something, a connection that is like, can become like one of your best, the best things you have in life. And I finish on this note. So I do have a 9-year-old daughter, and she's wonderful. We've got a great relationship. But I can genuinely say I'm as close to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is around me actually even more than her. So that's kind of uncanny, having two different experiences. And, I joke with Una that she's my best child. Una, and then Una goes, yeah, well, I'm sticking by you down here. And but we can have these little jokes and stuff because it is important,
Yeah. And how great that you can share these experiences with her, because what a gift you're giving her for when, as she grows and moves through life as a young woman and has all her experiences. She has this blessing that you and Elizabeth are giving her to carry through the rest of her life.
Yeah, and Elizabeth is very active in her life, looks after her, as well. And I have no doubt about it,
Yeah.
All we have to do is ask. That's all
That's right.
that's what I say to her. All you have to do is ask.
Yeah. And with that, we'll leave it right there. All you have to do is ask. And thank you for listening to this conversation. And I wish you a glorious day. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tracey. Love to you. Bye.